Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Big Apple's CoRe podcast. Today, I'm your host, Allison Eagle with Turner and Townsend. And today, our guest is Patrick Steffens with Avison Young. He is the director of leasing. We're just going to have some conversations about his career as a broker, and hopefully, we'll get some advice for our up-and-coming leaders. Let's get to it.
Awesome. Thanks, Allison. Happy to be here. You know, it's weird sitting on this side of the table. I have had the unique opportunity to host a couple of these episodes with the CoRe New York team. Really excited to be here on the other side to share more of my story. So pumped for it. Let's get it going.
Awesome. Hopefully I hold up to all the great episodes you've given us in the past.
This one's only going to be better. We got this.
Okay. Well, let's get started. You spent your career in commercial real estate. What was it like getting started?
The beginning of brokerage career is brutal. It's hard. The best way to sum it up is you don't know what you don't know. There's no roadmap that you must follow to lead to success. There are millions of different ways that brokers around the country, around the world have created careers in this. And you know, each one of them has their own unique stories, but a lot of them, as you've learned and you get to do it over the time and you talk to a bunch of people, they follow some similar trends. And the biggest thing I could say to somebody starting out is follow some of the successful trend lines that we'll talk about today. And, you know, but again, don't take it as Bible. Everything that says here, you know, may work for somebody else, may not work if you do it the same way. You know, it's person to person, it's market to market, it's industry type and product type, you know, unique. And, you know, but it's hard. Brokerage at the beginning is really hard. You know, unlike some other sales roles, the beginning of your brokerage career is long. You know, you can't just pick up the phone and, you know, sell something and that somebody's going to buy in 2 minutes on your first phone call. The time you meet a client, the time you meet a prospect and turn them into a client, and the time you get that client out looking at space, and by the time they sign a lease, and by the time you get paid, which is what we all care about, on the fastest I've ever seen it is 6 or 7 months, and it's taken 6 or 7 years for some other relationships to come to fruition. So you got to be patient. That's the one broad stroke that marks every successful broker is you have to be patient. And there's a lot of, you know, different unique ways to go about it. Patience, I think, is a big key component there.
Yeah. And did you start your career at Avison Young?
I did. I actually interned with the same team I'm with over 9 years ago. Was studying finance and real estate in college down in Florida State, and came up to New York. I'm from Brooklyn originally, and knew I wanted to come back up here. Was introduced to some of the senior leaders at Avison Young's New York office as they were getting started. They didn't have a formalized internship program at the time. It was a very small group of people, and they brought me in a couple of days a week as a college kid. They weren't paying. I was just hustling and grinding, trying to get my way out there, and you know, picking up whatever job I could in the meantime to supplement those missed days of paid work. And you know, I was fortunate enough to make an impact on them and impress some of the leaders at the AY office at the time. And when the time came for to end the internship, it was kind of funny. They said, you know, thank you for being here. I hope you learned a lot. We're not hiring anybody who has zero real estate experience. Slap me on the back and wish me good luck. Kind of, that was it. See you later. And I kept in touch. You know, I was home in between semesters, got to meet some of the crew again, you know, during the holiday season. And I guess that must have sparked something in them. And, you know, I have that go-getter attitude. I've always been, you know, a hustler, a grinder. And come probably February, March, right around the time we were going to spring break, for senior year of college, I got a call from one of the leaders in the New York AY office to offer me a position. Timing couldn't have been more perfect. I was a senior going out to spring break, and all of a sudden now jobs taken care of for next year. I don't have to worry about this. So I'm set.
That's great.
But they're a great team we're working with. We really diverse practice. We can touch on some more of that later. But most importantly, it's great people that we work with, and that's why I haven't left. I'm now literally with the same core 4 or 5 people for a number of years now. I think the world of them, and very excited to keep this going.
That's amazing. You've started in the industry at a kind of turbulent time as well. You started kind of right after the recession. What was that like?
I missed a lot of the hardcore recession. I'm still in school for the depths of it. The world was starting to come back and bounce back at that point. So it was way different than things were a couple years after that, a couple years ago, and way different than things are now, right? Markets are cyclical, and you have to be there for all of it to be a true professional and to really guide your clients and your customers through different times. It's tough to do when you've never done it before. But coming out there, I would say macroeconomically, what was different at that time was there was a lot of expansion and growth. Coming out of the depression, when there was a lot of contraction and shrinking, and companies were excited. And at that time, it was also at the beginning of my career. There was not a lot of input and value because I didn't have a lot of the experiences. So I was more of the fly on the wall and just being a knowledge sponge, hanging out with some real true professionals who help, guide me and teach me and educate me and coach me as I was growing my career. And then, I would say patience being number one. Surround yourself with strong and smart leaders is number 2 of the trends that, regardless of your market, regardless of your product type, if you want to be a successful broker, especially at the beginning, those are 2 very important things: is patient and surround yourself with smart people. I was fortunate enough to do so. Worked with some really strong leaders. I still work with some really strong leaders who've been very influential in my career. They've given me the freedom to go out and do funky stuff like this podcast, right? But at the same time, encouraging us to be ourselves. You're not just gonna fit in and do everything the way we say you have to do it. So that's part of the reason why I've been happy to stay with the same team at AY for huge chunky years now.
I feel like I can relate to that a little bit right now because I graduated in 2020, which was kind of an interesting time to just, be out in the workforce. And right now I'm about 1.5 years into the industry, and the market's not the same as it used to be in the past couple of years, and kind of just navigating that and growing connections that way. It's just trying to absorb everything that I can right now and meet as many people as possible and try to, So
I think you're right there. Meet as many people as possible. I would say regardless, same thing. Another thing, regardless of your industry and your product type and your market, to be a successful broker, is your network is your net worth. And the popular phrase when I was a kid was, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. And that was what it was like trying to go get a job and trying to go out and do your interviews and meet people. I had a mentor in college who was a successful broker down in South Florida who told us a funny story. It's not about what you know, it's not about who you know, but it's about who knows you in return. She mentioned, he goes, I know who Derek Jeter is, doesn't mean I can go play shortstop for the Yankees. So at the end of the day, you have to have that person, that decision maker, or that leader or inspirational figure on the other side. They have to you have to be memorable to them in order for them to call you back, in order for them to take that meeting, in order for them to think of you when it's opportunity to discuss real estate or discuss a friendship or, go on a date, something like that. You have to be memorable to people, and it's, not about what you know, not about who you know, but who knows you in return.
When getting somebody to know you and remember you and having your name pop up in their head, is it something that you're doing personally, or are you providing them with industry knowledge? Is it a combination of both? Like, how do you get noticed? You
got to be sticky. It's weird to say, but you have to be present, and you have to be sticky, and you have to be memorable in mind. So some people, have a calling card, or some people have like a little gimmick that they, or a moniker that they go by. I don't have a funky professional nickname. Whatever my high school buddies call me. It's not for not for this discussion, but it's different, right? And it also depends on how you met that person or how you connected with that person from the beginning. If I met somebody at a networking event and we, found a mutual connection because their cousin went to Florida State, or somebody played a sport or made a mutual connection with somebody that I knew, sometimes that's all it takes is to be sticky, is to remember those connections and how those connections are made. Like, I met a guy early in my career he comes from a construction background, and he was not a New York City-based guy, but has been working and living here for quite some time. And his two favorite football teams, college side, were Florida State, and professionally were the New York Giants. My two favorite football teams. So that's in the whole scope of all football fans, it's kind of broad, but in the scope of the New York construction and real estate world, it's kind of niched and tight. So like, we've been able to maintain a friendship over the years because we made that sticky. There are sometimes, if we're going out trying to meet new clients or get in touch with people for the first time, getting sticky is a lot harder than staying sticky. And becoming memorable and giving them a reason to pick up the phone when you call or answer your email when you shoot them one comes down to what info can you give them. Sometimes it's as simple as the connection. Sometimes it's you have to hit them with information that's super relevant to their company, their business, their operation at the exact time which they need it. Over the lifetime of commercial office leases are 5, 7, 10, 15 years long. That moment in time is such a small little blip on a large scale that it's hard to be sticky at the right time. So you have to be a little bit memorable in advance of that time when all of a sudden, wait a second, these guys need a real estate broker because their lease is coming up, or because their headcount grew or their headcount shrunk and they have too much or not enough space. The best call in the world is when somebody calls me back. Oh, we spoke about this a while ago, or you sent me a couple emails about this, a couple months back. We're ready to discuss. There's a great book out there, the Blue Ocean Theory, where it's you just got to be everywhere. And I don't necessarily have the time to be everywhere. There are some that are way more efficient with their 24 hours than I am. But it's doing different things. We had on this podcast a couple months back Gabe Marins, who from Savills, is a broker who I've looked up to and who's been influential in my career, who has become an extraordinary social media presence. James Nelson is a leader in Avison Young's New York office, has an extraordinary social media presence. And part of that is not necessarily hanging a sign saying call me, but giving people thought-provoking moments. So when it comes time to think about that, they get those calls. And, someday I hope to be that good,
What are some creative marketing solutions that you've been seeing coming around recently?
So part of what we do is on the tenant rep side. Some of what we do is on the landlord rep side, and on the tenant rep side, it's a lot of that is more hunting with a sniper rifle. You want to shoot the right shot at the right target. You want to go fishing with the right bait. You're not going to go out with a huge chunk of freshwater bait to go catch little saltwater fish, or vice versa. You want to use the right opportunity to go after the right person. So that is way specific and way direct, and talking about your building versus the building across the street is one way to go about it, right? Again, there's no broad stroke and there's no right or wrong answer. The other piece, on the landlord side, marketing has become way more creative and way more out there because the world's changed, right? Back in the day, pre-COVID, when Zoom wasn't a thing, business leaders would, brokers would send business leaders 40 or 50 spaces that somewhat match their criteria. They would quickly look through photos and plans and determine, all right, these 20, 25 might work. Let's go spend 2 afternoons and 3 afternoons and go see them. Long, not time consuming, super inefficient. A lot of times the real estate decision makers at companies are senior leaders who have super busy schedules because they run big, important businesses. Yeah. And so part of the role as a good agent is to be most efficient with our time and the time of our clients and customers coming down the line. I tip my cap to the residential brokers who've been really strong at the forefront of this. But, if you're looking for an apartment nowadays, you're looking to go buy a house, you can get a floor plan, you can get a walkthrough video, you can get a lot of relevant information about that property with a click of a button or a quick phone call. The commercial world is a little bit slower to adopt some of those strategies, but that's some of the stuff we're doing these days. We want people to fully see and understand our space before they're ready to step into it. There's a really cool tool out there. It's called like a Matterport camera is one of the brands that does it, but you can basically walk through an office space, and as you click through it, you're walking 2 steps ahead, 2 steps ahead, 2 steps ahead, and it's this funky 3D camera that like you can adjust. Think about like Google Street View, for inside, and we like to shoot those in the mornings on sunny days. So there have been times we'd had to reschedule because of bad weather, because we want to show the space in its greatest light, literally and figuratively. So, that's one tool that's really happening these days. The other thing that good landlords think about these days is, what makes tenants tick, right? Where your building is, what type of tenants does it attract? What, type of industries and what type of employees are going to want to go to that office, right? Yeah, everybody has the ability these days, or not everybody, most people have the ability these days to work from home at least part of their schedule. What a good landlord wants to do is what makes the space attractive? What gives people a reason to come to the office? And not just come to the office, but come to and choose my building versus the one across the street down the block in another neighborhood. Sometimes it's as simple as, you live in the project management construction world, and a lot of that is done with design and office design, about what the tenant does to their own interiors. Part of it is what the landlord can do, and that's, giving people a reason to choose that building because there's great coffee in the lobby, or there's a gym downstairs, or there's a bike room. I want to take my bike to work, but my bike room, I show up all sweaty, in the summer. It stinks. But some places have a bike room with a shower. And a bike room with a shower, and if I have a flat tire, so there's a pump and a fix and a toolkit there. So it's just trying to meet people where they are, almost to the point of creating these super hospitable environments, following the hotel model almost, right? There's so many hotels to choose from, especially in New York. Why are you going to pick one versus the other? Some people are just going to pick the cheapest hotel because they just need a place to stay, and that's it. Some people are coming to New York and experience the city for what it is, so they're going to pick and choose their hotel based on what kind of experience they're going to get.
We just spoke about what landlords are doing to entice tenants into their space. What kind of conversations are you having with tenants? What are their interests right now? What are they looking for?
It's obviously a custom strategy, right? What works for one tenant's not going to work for another tenant. What works for one tech tenant's not going to work for another tech tenant. What, insert bank, hedge fund, law firm, nonprofit, every company is different, right? They are individual snowflakes. So there are some trend lines that we can follow, but at the end of the day, part of what we do and what makes a good broker from an average broker is treat everybody as an individual. It's easy to commoditize the data and to say, tenants are doing this, or law firms are doing that, and but at the end of the day, you want to be sticky, you want to be memorable to these people. Think about something that's going to be super important or valuable to them. And part of the groups that we're dealing with and we're talking with now, we're having all different types of conversations. We're having some groups that are in, for lack of a better word, average Class B buildings that are, struggling to try and bring their people back because their offices are dark and there's a column farm and it's very difficult, plain Jane, think Office Space, the movie type of Office Space. Like, there's nothing exciting, about
it's an office.
TPS reports or whatever they were doing in that movie, right? But there are groups that are struggling with that. And what are they going to do to be different? What are they going to do to entice their people? And some groups, that's what they want to do. They want to entice their people. You have other tenants that their main goal is the cheapest rent. We just need a place to be. We'll go spend the money on our interior design, but we just need cheap rent. And, you put lipstick on a pig, sometimes it's still a pig, but sometimes if you can really dress it up and it's pretty. And we got a lot of great, construction and design folks in CoRe you can come talk to if you're looking to do that. So there's your little plug. There you go. That's why you're the best. But the really interesting, and then you have other groups that they use their space for different reasons. We're talking with, a financial services company now. Their primary role of this office is, only for a handful of people as their day-to-day, but they use it as their fundraising home. And they want to bring investors to this high-powered conference facility, or they want to show off that they are top-tier legit firm, so they want to be in that high status building with that high status space.
Yeah.
And the investment that they'll spend on their rent is a drop in the bucket from the investment that these funds and institutional level capital players will be placing within their operation. So you have to treat everybody individually. And I touched on this a little before. I think it's a good time to call back on it. A lot of what my practice is today is diverse, right? We're working with some of those high-end office tenants that I was talking about. We're working with some nonprofits that need to be really creative and smart with every last dollar because they want to put their money towards their mission, and they'll find a cheap space and put something pretty on it to give people a reason to come back to work. We're working with some outer boroughs logistics type groups where they're focused on where is the right location for my business to be from an operation standpoint based on its proximity to my customers, to transit, to the hotel, to the transit and the bridges and the tunnels and the highways, that I can get my product in and out from where it is. Some of what we've done on the retail side is we work with groups that want to be in high foot traffic areas. They need to be visible in order for their business to operate. They want to be out there and everywhere, and not just everywhere. They want to be in the place where everybody is. So, we're working with a huge variety of types of operators having different conversations every day.
We spoke at the beginning of this conversation a little bit about advice for younger brokers, and then we got into the meat and potatoes of the conversation was listening to the landlords and the tenants and coming up with solutions for them. How long did it take for you to really fully understand that knowledge? Was it quick? Did it come right away? Was it years of listening to both sides and being like, okay, I'm starting to see the trends now? Like
curveball.
Yeah.
It's still not there.
Okay.
Like anything, we're all still learning. And I don't have to have all the answers. In fact, I know for a fact I don't. And I think that's part of what sets me apart and what gets me to the level that I've been at and the level I want to be is to keep doing more of it. You don't have to know all the answers. You just have to know where to find them. And, through networking and getting in touch and being sticky with different types of people, not just prospects and potential clients, but groups like CoRe who are full of industry experts who know way more and have a huge knowledge of whether it be building operations, architecture, design, construction, furniture, you name it. Like, I don't have to know all the answers, but I have to know where to find them. And part of what makes a good broker is understanding that. Part of what makes you a good broker is having the Rolodex and the breadth of relationships to go find those answers. And it's easy to me now because I spent a lot of time networking and being sticky with a lot of these groups. And part of what we're doing today, right? I'm here because I want to be. I'm talking to you and the rest of the team behind the camera because I want to be. And these are relationships that we're building for our careers. And if hopefully if there's a real estate or building specific question, pick up the phone and give me a shout.
And I feel like people really respond well to the honesty. If you're like, I don't know that answer right now, but I can get it for you.
People can smell bullshit a mile away.
Exactly. And sometimes when you have an answer right away, people are like, oh, okay, well, that was awfully quick and you're not an expert in that. So, that makes a lot of sense. Okie doke. Well, thank you very much for sharing all of your knowledge with us today. It was great having this conversation with you. We're going to jump into a section now that you're very familiar with, our segment called the New York Minute. So I'm just going to ask you a couple of quick questions and
Rapid fire.
Rapid fire.
Let's go.
Alrighty. What's your favorite NYC movie?
Oh, NYC movie. Taxi Driver going way back was awesome. I liked some of the classics. Taking a Pelham 123 was another, funky, ridiculous one. But Escape from New York was pretty badass.
Those are all great. All right. What's one interesting fact about yourself?
Wow, I like that one too. Mixing up the questions on me. Not prepared for this one. I love it. Interesting fact about me, I played rugby for about 15 years. I've traveled the country, played in college. I still played up until about a year ago. There's a part of me that I know I got one game left when my brothers are all moved back or done from college. We'll play one game together, and then it's time to hang them up.
So that's why you've been so resilient in these ups and downs in the market. You played rugby. You could take a beating.
Body can take it,
yeah. What is one thing that has sparked your interest in the industry news recently?
Interesting news tip that we learned relatively recently. We're recording this now, third quarter of 2023, and there's been a huge talk recently about the flight to quality and how a lot of tenants have chosen to upgrade, and that's absolutely true. However, our Avison Young stats say that the number and percentage of tenants that are upgrading from a to a trophy or a B to an A or a C to a B class of building is roughly the same as where it was pre-COVID. There's always been groups that have wanted to upgrade. This is going back 3 years pre-COVID, 3 years post-COVID. So that caught me by surprise when I read that this week.
Very cool. What is unique about your New York experience?
Born and bred here, if you couldn't tell by the accent, right? I love this city. Even naming the New York movies, I have a tendency to fall in love with the tradition of old New York. So there's a lot of old things that make New York really damn cool. I'm not the first to jump into the trendy restaurant. I'd rather go the tried and true classic or that 100-year-old place on the other side of town that I've never been to before. So part of what I love most about New York is some of those old school places that haven't changed through generations.
That's great.
Shout out Kevin Watt.
If you could go back in time and talk to your 18-year-old self, what advice would you give him?
Fail more.
Okay.
Screw up. The biggest lessons I've ever learned was from making a mistake or watching somebody make a mistake. But there were times where I felt like I sat on the sidelines too long and watched it. And sure, if I watch people make a mistake, I can learn not to do that. But if I watch somebody do something and they succeeded, I was like, damn, I missed out on an opportunity. So if I were to go back and tell my 18-year-old self, fail more. Be afraid. Don't be afraid to fail.
That's great advice. Well, those are all great, amazing answers. Thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a great chat.
Thanks for being here. It was fun to flip the script and sit on the other side of the table. So awesome.